deep down, we know what it is we want. We know what our desires are. We know what it is speaking to us inside. But the issue is when we let our brain take over, our brain is that inner critic. And so it jumps in and says, you can't do it. Why are you trying that? You're going to look stupid. There's already other people doing it. And so what happens is that we sabotage our progress. We create this fear, this self-doubt, that means we don't actually take that journey towards our heart and to listen to what it is telling us. Now, to shorten that journey, it is about trusting that you have value, that you matter, and you do.
Amos Madra.
Simon Alexander Ong, a very warm welcome to you. Great to have you back again. First interview, wow. Mine was totally blown. There was just so many golden nuggets. It was just one thing after another. And I was like, my goodness, just a wealth of wisdom. So just to have you back again, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down here with us today.
Well, Amos, thank you so much for having me back again. It is an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic. So, Simon, we spoke about last time, your story and how, you went from the corporate world and you started your own business, becoming this entrepreneur, author. Congratulations, by the way, for the book Energized. So, and also, just the coach that you are, constantly feeding and giving to people. I don't think a year's gone by since we met that I don't get a message from you just to wish me happy birthday. And I'm like, it's incredible. But you're such a reflective person, kind person, and your journey has been one that is, there's been ups and downs, but it's like, just before we start this recording, I was saying to you, you always seem to know the seasons, what's going to happen before things happen. So before we get into all that, let's just let some of the audience who are just listening for the first time, let's recap and talk about your journey, how you started from that corporate world into the person you are today.
Sure. So I graduated in the middle of 2007. I attended university in London after I believed that it was the best route to success. Go to university, get a good degree, start on a graduate program within a multinational company, and then create some stability in my life. So after I graduated in the middle of 2007, I started in the financial services industry, which was great because it paid well. But unfortunately, my timing was a little off because this was a year before the global financial crisis. And the company that I joined with was Lehman Brothers, which collapsed 14 months after I joined. And so, as you can imagine, when you receive notice of redundancy, when you have the threat that your position in the company is no longer going to be sustainable and you may not have a job for much longer, it creates a bit of volatility in your life. And of course, that did to me as well. But when I look back, Amos, at that occasion, it was a beautiful blessing in disguise, because I think that event was really the catalyst for me beginning the journey to where I am today. It got me thinking about what I really wanted to do and the impact that I wanted to have in the world. And that led me to quitting my corporate career. I was still in jobs in and out of the industry for nearly 10 years, but eventually I quit. The things that I was doing on the side helped me to open my mind to what was possible. And I quit that simply to coach people because I felt that I had the interest, the passion, and the desire to impact people's lives. And I just wanted to build a thriving coaching practice. But of course, once you step into the unknown, the magic of the unknown, lots of other things happen. And so once I started coaching people, I then got invited to speak at companies and conferences across the world, and then invited to the likes of Sky News and the BBC to talk about my work. And I am very grateful for those opportunities and invitations, because that then led me, just a couple of months before the United Kingdom went into its first lockdown, to have a discussion with Penguin, the world's largest publishing house, about writing my first book, Energize, which was published earlier this year in April 2022. And it has been an absolute roller coaster since then. And to be honest, Amos, I'm just enjoying every minute of it.
Absolutely. And, we see that, on your social media feeds, and you're a very busy person, just coming back from Dubai, Barcelona, yeah, all over the globe. It's certainly impacting so many people, and your book is doing the same as well. Simon, when I think about one of the quotes that you always say, the longest journey is from the brain to the heart, which I think is a very interesting one, because that's something that we all struggle with, is convincing our hearts of that we've already thought about. How do we shorten that journey, and how do we convince ourselves of that truth?
Sure. Well, first of all, I think the reason it is one of the longest journeys we make is because deep down, and when I say deep down, I'm referencing the heart. Deep down, we know what it is we want. We know what our desires are. We know what it is speaking to us inside. But the issue is when we let our brain take over, our brain is that inner critic. And so it jumps in and says, you can't do it. Why are you trying that? You're going to look stupid. There's already other people doing it. And so what happens is that we sabotage our progress. We create this fear, this self-doubt that means we don't actually take that journey towards our heart and to listen to what it is telling us. Now, to shorten that journey, it is about trusting that you have value, that you matter, and you do. One of the things that I learned from a mentor, a guy called Robert Greene, who wrote books such as Mastery, he said that you are a unique phenomenon. There has never been anybody like you, nor will there ever be anybody like you in the future. And that is because your unique makeup, your genetic makeup, your DNA makeup, your preferences, your strengths and your weaknesses make you you. And once we start leaning into our differences and trust that we do have something to offer into the world, what happens is that we begin to shorten that journey between our mind and our heart. And for me, that's what makes life worth living. When you start taking steps forward into unleashing your energetic potential, realizing those strengths and gifts that you were born with, what happens is life really becomes this beautiful path that when we look back at that journey, we can be so proud of the person that we are becoming.
Absolutely. And I like that. And that sums up success, isn't it? It's that progressive realization, becoming that person. And again, when I think about you, Simon, you're such a positive person, just your energy. And again, this reflects your book as well. It's, the kind of person that you are, uh, despite some of the difficulties, for example, with Lehman Brothers, but finding your purpose, finding your calling, and stepping into that. And again, getting these invitations to go and speak, with big broadcasters and everywhere, all over the world. Now, we can all be positive and we can all wish for these things, but you and I know truly positivity is not going to quite get you there. You can, as positive as you might be, it's not going to do it. Now, again, this is one of the biggest issues with the so-called secret, this idea of wishing things into being. It doesn't happen that way. You can have a positive mindset. It does play a big part. But when I look at you, I look at someone who's organized. I look at order. I look at structure. Talk to us about these things. Let's stay in that little place there where
Definitely.
people don't like to go.
When I think about it, you're right, Amos. It is important to have a positive mindset, but positive mindset alone won't get you far. I mean, it's a start. It's a start. If you have a negative mindset, you're not going to go far. So to shift your mindset to one that is positive, that's almost step one, because you've got to operate from a positive frame of mind. And that for me is the foundation. Now, if you are to go one step beyond that, it requires two more things. And for me, it is hard work first, and second, discipline. Those two are very important. Now, you may be born with incredible talent, whatever that is. You may be good at sport, you may be good at business, you may be good at a particular subject or skill. But the thing is, if you don't cultivate that talent through hard work and have a system or organization in place that allows you to develop and become the best of what you do through the discipline of daily actions, what happens is that talent is really quickly going to disappear. And so for me, positive mindset is the foundation. It has to be. Because as you said, Amos, both of us, and I'm sure many people who are listening into us right now, will have gone through challenges in the past few years, personal and professional. Now, challenges are always going to come up in our life, but it is in our response that determines how we move forward. And so when we have a positive framework and a positive mindset, it means that we're able to adapt quicker to whatever the world throws our way. So once we have that foundation, we then have to create a disciplined framework. What am I going to do? Not once in a while, but what am I going to do every single day? Because when you think about the secret to success, it is to be found in your daily routine. It is to be found in what you do day in and day out. You don't become fit by working out once every now and again. You become fit and strong when you work out every single day, even if it's just 5 minutes, because consistency beats intensity. It's what you are doing more than the majority will not simply do. And then the hard work is actually showing up, putting yourself out there, and again, believing that you have value. One of the things I often tell others, Amos, is that there are always two sales that occur. The second sale is selling you to others, and the first is selling you to you. And until you can sell you to you, it's going to become impossible, or at least very challenging, to sell you to others, because people feel your energy and they don't buy products and services as much as they buy your energy. So when they have a conversation with you, when they meet you in person, when they hear you on stage, when they read your work, if they can feel a positive energy from you, it makes them interested to want to learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've touched on the key word, that feeling. How do we create the feelings, the emotions to drive us to be disciplined?
Sure. When I think about feeling, the simple answer is to live more in the present. Now, why do most people not have that positive feeling or high vibrational energy? Is because we're not living in the present. We're either living in the past or the future. So when we are living today, we're consuming our mind by things that have already happened. Maybe something didn't go your way. Maybe something didn't happen the way you wanted it to. But that is still consuming your mind. Or if you are working towards an outcome, what is happening is that you are attaching your emotional well-being to that outcome. When this happens, when that happens, then I'll be happy, or then I can do this, or then I can do that. The issue is that if you're living in the past or you're living in the future, you are not in the present. And what happens is something that the Dalai Lama touched on, which is this tragic scenario of many living as if they're never going to die, and then dying having never really lived. So when we can ground ourselves in the present, yes, goals are important. A vision is important because it gives us something to focus on, but don't over attach yourself to whether it happens or not. Set the goal, set the vision, and then get to work. Move in the present. Focus on what you can do today. Because once you start building momentum in the now, that gives you that incredible feeling of I am going places. I am going places because I'm starting to build momentum. When you focus on the present, what can I do today, right now, that will determine the trajectory of my tomorrow? That gives you an incredible feeling that there is some exciting things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And that momentum, again, small incremental movements, building on from there. And that's it. Once you've galvanized yourself, you're off. You certainly used a lot of momentum to achieve the things that you've achieved. We spoke about it earlier on. You always seem to be in the right place at the right time. You can read the seasons. Talk to us about that. That just innate ability to see the iceberg before getting there.
I think this applies to any industry, is that the more you put yourself out there, the more that you are focused on being better than who you were yesterday, what happens is you build something called experience. And so you will have gone through different ups and downs in the business cycle. You will see what's working and what's not working. So again, when the world changes, when things move from one thing to another, your experience tells you where you should be focusing your time and energy on. And that's been the same for me, because I've been doing this for nearly 6-7 years now. Through that time, I've been constantly trying to be better every single day. And that experience has built a lot of powerful insights. Another thing which I feel has been very powerful for my journey, but also my thinking, has been deliberately and intentionally surrounding myself with people who are successful, who share my same values, but who operate in very different industries. So I would spend time with a bartender who happens to oversee the world's best bar, or I would spend time with a chef who is running a successful restaurant business, or I would spend time with a tech entrepreneur, a journalist, a writer, a film producer. And what happens is that because I have diversity of input into my thinking, it allows me to think more creatively. It allows me to do things that most aren't even thinking about because I'm open to different perspectives. And I think that is powerful. So often we limit the inputs that come into our mind. But if we open our mind to different perspectives, to be a student, to learn from every conversation, what happens is that it equips us with the resources and the tools to really think different.
Yeah. And again, it's that opening the mind and just being willing to learn, the constant pruning, developing, and trying to, again, just, how can I take from the bartender, who happens to be the world's best bartender, and apply those principles? Because again, don't try and reinvent the wheel. It's so important, isn't it?
Definitely. And I think that when you look at the innovations and breakthroughs we've had in history, a lot of those have come from being exposed to different thinking. I mean, when Steve Jobs came up with the MagSafe magnetic cord for the MacBook, he was inspired from a trip to Japan where he saw Japanese electrical appliance companies have magnetic cords as their wire. He asked why. And he understood very quickly that it was because if a child was to trip over one of those wires, the wire would fly out, but the product would stay still. The kettle wouldn't fall, the toaster wouldn't fall. And he said to himself, that is an incredible idea. We are going to bring that into the next MacBook laptop. We are going to have magnetic cords. And what happened is that when he did, the magazines, the journalists, and the press hailed him as an innovator, as a genius. Yet all he did was to look at a different industry, learn from it, and bring that into his own to look different from everyone else.
Yeah, Steve Jobs, an absolute inspiration. Another inspirational entrepreneur is you, Simon. I'm always intrigued when I look at successful entrepreneurs like yourself. What's a typical day like for you?
Ooh, well, I think you know what the answer is going to be, Amos. There's no typical day. There are some things that for me are non-negotiable. So, for example, what I mean by that is every day you will likely find me in the gym. You will likely see me reading books, having conversations with people, replying to messages, replying to emails, because I want to be approachable. I want to have that connection with my followers and my audience. Outside of that, every day will be different between the morning and the evening. So I could be speaking at an event. I could be coaching my clients. I could be mentoring a group of people. I could be brainstorming a new project. I'm working on a couple now, actually, looking into new year. Some very exciting ones to come up, which I can't wait to share with my followers and audience. And so every day and week is different in the middle part of that day. And for me, this is why I love entrepreneurship, because literally the week is your canvas, and you have the ability to put into that week whatever will bring you most joy. And that variety is what keeps me entertained. That variety is what keeps me interested and excited about what the future holds.
And that's where the energy comes from.
Indeed, indeed.
So even whilst you're abroad and you're working, different countries, are you able to still keep that structure with the gym and the diet as well?
Definitely. And I think that is important. That comes back to discipline. Life will change. Things will adjust. In COVID, I was at home. I was doing all of this on Zoom. Now that the restrictions have lifted, I'm traveling again. And so the scenarios would change. But what remains constant is my beginning of the day routine and my end of the day routine. So even when I'm abroad, I always make sure to the best of my ability that the hotel I'm staying at has a gym or a swimming pool. So at the minimum, I can get some exercise in while I'm abroad. So that's what I keep consistent. Again, the moment we start letting go of those habits that have made us, that are helping us make progress, it can sometimes start a bit of a downfall. So we have to try our best to make sure that the habits that are important to us and that are helping us make the progress we want are consistent and are non-negotiable habits of our day-to-day.
Absolutely. And again, no negotiable. These habits, they create success. Your book creates success. Talk to us about your book.
Sure. So I was blown away, if I'm honest, Amos, when I got the book deal. I was blown away because I didn't expect to get the book deal, but I was also blown away by the challenge I had. Now, in April 2020, if you remember what happened back then, we entered the first lockdown. In that same month, I got the book deal with Penguin, the world's largest publishing house. In that same month, I also became a father for the first time. No family members could travel to help support us. I had to write a 65,000 word book while raising a newborn, without being able to leave my home, no one able to come into my home. And I had to adapt my business because, as you know, a lot of my business is public speaking. Suddenly, nobody could hold in-person events anymore. And so all of this happened in the space of a few weeks. And it made the journey a lot tougher than I anticipated. But I tell you what, Amos, once that book came out, once the book was published and it was in people's hands, it has been surreal. It has been surreal. To see people tagging the book on social media, everywhere from America to Canada to Australia, Asia, Europe, the UK. It's been incredible to see just how far it has spread. A lot of people have asked me, Simon, do you check the numbers? Do you check this? Do you check that? Is it doing as well as you wanted for the book? I have honestly been saying to people, two things have already happened. One, I got a book deal with an incredible publisher. Two, I got endorsements from the likes of New York Times bestselling authors Simon Sinek, Forleo, Marshall Goldsmith. Now, because those two things have already happened, whatever happens after that is a bonus. And so, if it hits numbers, if it hits this or hits that, great, but I'm not attached to it. I'm just enjoying every minute of it. I'm enjoying what's coming out of it. And so for me, it's not having that pressure. And it's just hoping that my book, when people do read it, has some sort of positive impact on where they are now and where they want to be.
Absolutely. And we'll put the links in the description so that the audience can go and purchase the book. So, again, your impact, everything that you say is just so good. I just love talking to you. Talk to us about legacy and impact. What does that mean for you?
If I'm honest, as we grow older, Amos, I think every one of us will at some point come to understand that legacy is what gives us purpose. When we are young and we grow through our teenage years and we become a young adult, it's all about me, me, me. I want to be the coolest kid in my class. I want to earn the most money. But as we grow older and wiser and come to understand life, we realize that our value as a human on this planet is determined by how much more we have given to the world than we have taken from it. Because if you only do things for you, you are not going to be remembered when you pass from this world. People won't care about you because you only did it for you. But if you do things for others, when you contribute to society for the betterment of society, you're also contributing to your legacy. So that when you pass, people will remember you. Your legacy lives on even after you have passed from this world. If you think of the likes of Steve Jobs or Bruce Lee or all of these incredible names and iconic people throughout history, the reason we still talk about them is because of the impact that they had on the lives of other people. That's legacy. And that's why, for me, asking ourselves, what sort of impact do I want to have in the world, is a very important question, because that then dictates how you show up, what you value, what your principles are, and how you relate to other people. And when you understand that we're all one, and that actually when I help someone else, I'm also helping myself, we realize just how powerful acts of kindness and compassion can be.
What a legend. Simon, thank you so much. It's been so good talking to you. I really appreciate you. I celebrate you for the person that you are. you continue to make an impact in my life and in so many people's lives. And just know that, you know, the audience are getting a lot out of this here today. I appreciate you. Thank you very much indeed.
Amos, thank you so much for the kind words and support. And I look forward to catching up again soon.
If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.